Electric unicycles have been evolving and advancing at a breakneck pace ever since they were invented over 20 years ago. The speed of progress has continued, and the speed one can travel on an EUC has gone up and up and up. One manufacturer increases motor power on this wheel. The next week, a competitor releases something higher voltage on their next wheel. And now we fast forward to the year 2024. The most powerful electric unicycle in history has arrived. Behold, the Begode ET Max. Begode has long been criticized by the general public for their rapid-fire release of EUCs. Historically, what they've done is announce a flagship electric unicycle, and then as soon as it gets into the hands of the public, or sometimes even before, they announce the successor to it. By doing that, it fills the customer with a serious feeling of buyer's remorse. Why didn't they just wait a little bit longer and get the newer model? Well, I'm happy to say that Begode has heard your cries loud and clear. This wheel took a long time to develop, about a year. The voltage wars have raged on, where one electric unicycle manufacturer releases one wheel with just a little bit higher voltage, then the next one will be announced with a little bit higher voltage, until now we have finally arrived at the most powerful electric unicycle ever made. Before we dive too deep into this review, I want to give a big thank you to this video's sponsor, Next Gen Mobility. They provided me this demo unit for review purposes. Check them out at nextgenmobility.org, where you can snag yourself a deal of the century of a brand new EUC. And if you do buy a wheel from there, make sure you use the coupon code WheelGoodTime to get an additional $25 off of your purchase. And by doing so, you'll be directly supporting the channel. So, thank you. Now, where was I? My initial impressions on the ET Max were a bit mixed. On my first ride with this machine, I was able to achieve blisteringly fast speeds straight away. But getting to that blisteringly high speed took quite a bit of time. I was wondering what was going on here. It just didn't feel like it wanted to accelerate. When I asked it to accelerate, it was like, let me finish my coffee first. Then when I shifted it from off mode to racing mode, the experience was so much better. It turned the Max from a bit of a bore on the streets to something really exciting and zesty. If you're not a regular viewer of the channel, then you might be wondering why this wheel is in the condition that it's in. Unfortunately, the ET Max and I took a bit of a spill at 35 miles an hour, and if you want to know more about it, then you can just watch this video that's going to be linked right above. But this review waits for no man, and it certainly doesn't wait for replacement parts to arrive in the mail. So let's get going. Due in large part to the 168 volts that the ET Max has, and the fact that it has a 4,500 watt motor, this thing has ridiculous torque. It just seems like no matter how hard I try, I just cannot overpower the ET Max. I've been able to overpower literally every single EUC ever made, except for this one. Now let's see how the ET Max performs doing 0 to 40 mile per hour tests. These numbers are phenomenal, but they're not exactly 100% accurate or truthful. It should be noted that on the ET Max, Begode inflates their numbers by about 13%. So no matter what speed you're going, you need to multiply it by 0.87 to get the real result. In this case, when we're doing 0 to 40 mile per hour tests, when it hits 46 miles an hour is when it really is hitting 40 miles an hour. So let's review that footage one more time and get the real numbers. Despite having to adjust our figures here by just a little bit, the acceleration power is out of this world, and it is top-notch in terms of power. To compare it to a car, I'd compare it to a Mustang Shelby GT500. That's stupid fast. It's not the most refined out there. It's no Lamborghini, but it has more than enough raw power to make up for the lack of refinement. The braking power on the ET Max is also a breathtaking thing to behold. Again, being the best spec EUC on the market, it stands to reason that the ET Max should be able to brake the fastest too. Well, that was my experience as well. Shockingly, I was able to brake better than a car can. A car has an average stopping distance of about 55 feet at 30 miles per hour. but the ET Max could do it in about 30 feet. Absolutely phenomenal. The ET Max has a top free spin speed claimed at 111.8 miles per hour. Let's put that to the test. All right, let's do the first feed test, free spin. We're gonna lift it up. We do not have field weakening enabled. Let's go. All right, now that we have field weakening enabled, we're gonna do a free spin speed test. Here we go. So we've achieved a final cutout speed of 111 miles per hour on the speedometer here on the wheel. Now again, we have to do minus 13% on that, but no matter how you slice it, this wheel is fast. How fast exactly? To put it simply, it's capable of riding faster than you are. I don't know a single person who has cut out on the ET Max with a full battery going beyond its limits. It just has so much to give. A highly skilled rider could travel at over 60 miles per hour, GPS speed, on a full battery, and it'll still have plenty left to give you. The true bottleneck in terms of how much power the ET Max is able to give depends on your skill, not your wheel. There's a significant difference between the speed it can go and the speed you can go on it. Speaking of speeds that you should be able to expect to go, we're going to talk about happy speed. Happy speed is the speed that you should be able to expect to go as an average skilled rider on a given wheel. Every EUC has a different happy speed. And so, for example, I said that the leaperkim lynx has a happy speed of about 42 miles per hour. That's blisteringly fast for just the average skilled user. But with the ET Max here, I'm going to be awarding it the highest amount of happy speed, primarily due to the fact that we have a very stable street tire. It's a bigger street tire than others, and it has really, really high amounts of power left to give, even at the top end. Some EUCs like the Begode Master Pro V1 and V2 seem to just lose torque at the top end, somewhere around 40 to 45 miles per hour GPS. They have tons of stability, but they're not able to continue pushing you well beyond that speed because they lack the power to really get really, really fast. The ET Max, on the other hand, it just has so much left to give. Even beyond 50 miles per hour, it's still eager to keep on going, and it's completely dependent on your skill. So for that reason, I'm giving the ET Max a happy speed of about 44, 45 miles per hour GPS. Timeout. Side note, if you don't mind, if you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button. It would really help the YouTube algorithm gods smile upon me, and it really helps this channel. Okay, back to the review. For years, Begode has been criticized for their build quality on their EUCs. Some people describe it as a bit of a plastic, fantastic, low build quality, but they have really, really high performance machines, but they're using the cheapest possible materials. For the ET Max though, that's not the case. This thing has metal all around it. It is really heavy duty build quality, and it is really, really impressive. I mean, really, after all, if we're just gonna be getting some scuffs around the front here and this back part being all bent up after a crash, this build quality is really good. Something that I thought was less than awesome on the ET Max though was the ridiculous amount of screws involved. We have screws everywhere, and there's so many of them, and they're tiny. They're highly strippable screws. I would not enjoy admitting the number of screws that I have accidentally stripped out on here, but it's more than one, and it was not very fun to try to extract them. That build design decision really makes it look very nice and highly polished, but sadly, it makes this wheel exceptionally hard to work on at times. When I'm king of the world, I'm making sure that every electric unicycle has fewer screws, but bigger screws that can do the job just as well. Just like these. The stock pads on the ET Max are absolutely massive. And I have to say that for all of the pads that come with a Begode electric unicycle, these ones are the best. Let's put them on. One of the great things about the stock pads on the ET Max is their size. And honestly, they're super comfortable for what they are. They're nice and contoured to just hug your leg, and they're not super wide, and that wasn't something that I was really thrilled about. I also found that due to the shape right here, it just doesn't lock in your foot very well. And so a new set of pads that are aftermarket would definitely come in handy, but it's not something that is absolutely a requirement. Another little issue with the pads is that they hook around the back of the battery boxes. So you can't adjust it forward and back. You can only adjust it up and down because it will only slide up and down here based on your adjustments. I wasn't really thrilled about that. And also something that was really important and a big problem is that there just isn't enough pad mounting surface area. So no matter who you are, it seems like you're gonna have some overhang with the pads. This is a really tall wheel, but they really needed to expand the lateral distance on here just so you can properly mount pads on there. Because aftermarket pads such as Grizzly pads tend to lock in your foot so much better than something like the stock pads, that's why most of the footage that you see in this video has me riding with those rather than the stock pads. Overall, the pads that come with it are, I would give it a B+ rating. Not bad. Not the best, but not bad. The lighting on the ET Max is probably one of the biggest disappointments about this wheel. The headlight is about as dim as it gets as far as lighting is concerned, and I would say that it is quite possibly the dimmest of any EUC I've ever tried. It's just not very good. Secondly, the tail light is virtually invisible in bright daylight. Remember, if you buy an ET Max, this little metal part is going to be touching here. It's not going to be bent like mine. But as you can see in bright daylight, it's basically invisible. The suspension on the ET Max was completely reworked and redone. This is an all new and totally different linkage that offers 130 millimeters of suspension travel. And with this particular wheel, we have a 1,300-pound spring here. Compression and rebound are adjusted with these two knobs, and they are infinitely adjustable. Very nice. Sadly, with the 1,300-pound spring, it was just way oversprung. It may sound like the suspension is really awesome on the ET Max. The stats say that it's awesome, but with the 1,300-pound coil, it was just way oversprung. I know looks can be deceiving, but I'm actually not a little 100-pound rider. Even for me, the 1,300-pound suspension felt incredibly stiff. Fortunately, Begode offers a 900-pound suspension option, and I personally did get to try that, and it was game-changing. Unless you weigh more than 250, maybe even 300 pounds, I would definitely suggest that everyone go for the 900-pound option. It is almost impossible to get it truly dialed in with the 1,300-pound suspension unless you are really heavy. Using the 900-pound coil, I felt like the ride was actually really nice. The charger that comes with the ET Max is this big old cinder block here. It is a 5 amp charger, and it is absolutely monstrous. And it's also pretty loud. 5 amps is pretty decent though, considering we're charging also at 168 volts. And so you should be able to top this whole thing up in about 4 hours or so. The ET Max is quite possibly one of the most ready-to-go turnkey wheels that Begode has ever released. You really don't have to purchase a whole lot of things after already buying the wheel to make this a truly fun experience. The number one post-purchase requirement is Velcro. The Velcro that they include in the box is one of the most embarrassing and shameful things that I've seen in a while. It was laser cut, so I'll give them that, but it is so incredibly thin, and the Velcro that came with the wheel out of the box was really wrinkly and crinkled, and it was just like they stuffed it in there and then put a whole bunch of stuff on top of it. So you're definitely gonna need to get some fresh Velcro, so that's just 10 bucks. The second requirement is rear panel extensions. There is just not enough space on this wheel to mount pads on here. You are overhanging in the front, and if you're using any pads that are not the stock Begode pads, they're also going to be hanging off the back. So you definitely need to get something that will expand the size here to be able to mount pads comfortably. Personally, I think the only one that's available right now is through vertexpads.com, and it's a really nice and pretty much universally well-reviewed thing that it just adds a little extension here. It's really nice. Lastly, if you're gonna be riding the ET Max on roads, and let's be honest, you're gonna, because this is a road wheel, then you need to be able to indicate to other drivers on the road that you're braking. Unfortunately, because the tail light is as bad as it is, especially during the daytime, the other drivers are not gonna be able to see your tail light. So for that reason, I highly recommend getting an attachment for your helmet that will automatically sense when you're braking and it's gonna indicate to other drivers that you're braking. That's only 30 bucks, and it's a huge safety thing that the ET Max just dropped the ball on. As far as post-purchase requirements are concerned, that's only 90 bucks. That's really good for this wheel. For post-purchase recommendations, my #1 recommendation is a set of pads. Personally, I like to go with Grizzly Flow pads because it helps lock your foot in. The pads that come with it, as we discussed earlier, are really not that bad, but it's really going to enhance your experience, so I highly recommend getting a set of pads for roughly $150 extra. The last post-purchase recommendation that I'm going to suggest is a seat. Now, this wheel has a really nice contour here. It's designed for you to sit on, but unfortunately, it's just slick. It's smooth plastic, so your butt is not going to feel very secure as you're sitting on here. That's why I added a little bit of the soft side for Velcro here, just to give me a little bit more resistance. You need something that is going to keep your body secure on there. So I recommend vertexpads.com. They're the only ones that I'm aware of that offer a seat for the ET Max, and it's pretty nice. So tack on an extra 60 bucks. So after we've bought all the post-purchase recommendations and requirements, we're only looking at an additional $240. That is a very, very well-equipped wheel for what we are getting out of the box here. In conclusion, this is the fastest EUC that I've ever ridden. I'm shocked that it was only a 20-inch wheel that has accomplished that. The ET Max is not for everyone though. If you're a track racer, or if you're someone who likes to ride at ultra high speeds on the road, then this wheel is for you. If you have the 900-pound suspension coil, then riding light trails is definitely a possibility for you. But mark my words, this EUC is not designed for trails. It's not an EUC that appeals to a wide segment of the EUC market. It was built to go fast. Really, really, really fast. You wouldn't be putting a Formula 1 car into a dirt rally competition, would you? No, you'd be using an all-wheel drive car. In this case, the ET Max is that Formula 1 car. It is designed to be the king of the track, the king of the streets, something that will blow away the competition. What blew me away was the fact that when I was riding at 50% battery, I was still able to go 52 miles per hour on the ET Max. That is absolutely incredible. And that's all thanks to the massive amount of power that is in reserve on the ET Max. If you think the ET Max is impressive, but want to compare it to some of the other options available on the market, check out this video that's going to help you make that decision. Better be quick though, because it's about to disappear. It's about to go away. You clicking it? You clicking it?